You have a dog?
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, and today I have once again a very, very special guest, my lovely lady.
Hello. Nice to meet you. I mess up too. Words are hard.
Words are very hard. We had the luxury of seeing the brand new Superman movie early, a few days early, actually, like 4 days early, because it comes out on the 11th.
11th, yeah. Cut.
Directed by James Gunn. I was not necessarily worried, but I did have a few concerns going into this movie because of all the things behind DC movies, like how DC live action movies have just been so terrible. Well, not all of them, but majority of them. And the writing has been bad, but James Gunn's track record is not flawless, but it is really, really, really good.
He did Scooby-Doo. You can't go wrong with that.
As she said, he did Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed, and he did the Guardians movies. It's just crazy how he captured the essence of a comic book and put it to live action. Now, not everything is perfect, and there are, honestly, in my opinion, very minimal issues with this movie, personally. I know that she has some issues as well with the movie, but... I'm so sorry.
Did you see that? He hit me.
We can't do that. So. As she said, yeah, she has some small issues as well. So let's get into this review. So for our classic couple, we've got David Corenswet playing Clark Kent / Superman, and Rachel Brosnahan playing Lois Lane. Now, I do like the dynamic that these two had together, but as Jen mentioned earlier when we were on the ride home, and even right after the movie, we both wish that it was more of like a build-up of Lois and Clark, like how it is in the Christopher Reeve movie.
They're instantly dating in this movie, and she instantly knows that he is Superman.
Which, again, is okay, because they did that kind of in Man of Steel with Henry Cavill and Amy Adams. So, I mean, there's just a different storytelling, which is fine. But, you know, there's just that classic nostalgia of having the whole Lois not knowing and having an idea, but then being wrong, or thinking she's wrong, and Clark tricking her to make her think that she's wrong. So there was just that. That's one thing that I'll say. But overall, this movie was just completely encapsulating. We were clapping several times throughout the movie. So the audience members were clapping several times throughout the movie. I knew going into it that they were in it, but I just didn't expect when you hear a new Superman movie coming out, you're gonna get Green Lantern, Hawk Girl, and Mr. Terrific.
Oh, that's her name, Hawk Girl? I was gonna ask you who that girl was.
Yeah,
okay.
Hawk Girl.
I didn't know that any of these characters were gonna be in this movie. I had no idea. I've never read any of the comics. I've seen the older versions of the movies, Christopher Reeve, Brandon Routh, Henry Cavill, but I had no idea. So for me, it was actually, at first I was confused, but it made it more fun for me.
Yeah, she's been getting a lot more into like the DC stuff. We watched the new 52 movies, and it's just,
we
it's
did
great.
Just recently watch Green Lantern too.
We don't. It's
speak of that.
So Mr. Terrific is played by Eddie Gathegi, and I will say that this is a much more redeeming role for him, because he, in X-Men First Class, a guy who's supposed to be indestructible, and I think we all know how that went. He just died so carelessly.
I honestly don't even remember him in that movie. I don't think I've ever seen him in anything before.
That's okay. We'll watch X-Men First Class.
Yeah,
he did a really good job. It was really great to see him in this role, because honestly, I didn't know how it was gonna go, but he really embodied Mr. Terrific almost to a T. Isabella Merced played Hawk Girl, and I know earlier she said that she didn't know who that person was.
I figured out Green Lantern when he did the green thing, and it turned
the green thing.
Yeah.
The green thing.
The green thing.
The green thing. Okay, well, we'll workshop that.
That's as far as I got.
And then, of course, as Green Lantern, Guy Gardner, we have Nathan Fillion, which is crazy because he voiced Green Lantern in the animated movies, and to see him be, of all characters, Guy Gardner.
Haircut was horrendous.
It's very comic accurate. It's very comic accurate.
Well,
like he literally looks exactly like that in the comics.
Very messed up chili bowl haircut.
Oh, just wait until you see him in the comics.
Different layers. Somebody just took scissors to that. Didn't even look.
We also have Nicholas Hoult, who played Lex Luthor, killed it as Lex Luthor. Sarah Sampaio, who I'm pretty sure I butchered that name and I'm very sorry, but she played Eve Tessmacher, and it's funny because I didn't realize that that's who her character was.
Why didn't they say if Lex Luthor would have said or yelled Miss Tessmacher, like he did in the original, I would have made more sense. We didn't figure this out till we looked at, IMDb?
Yeah.
He should have said Miss Tessmacher, and that would have instantly connected. She did dress the same, though.
That is true. She made a point about when they got to, like, the North Pole, she was dressed very bodaciously, and it was like, yeah, that's Tessmacher. I like what they did with this movie. It's obviously not going to be a shot-for-shot from Christopher Reeve's movies, or Brandon Routh, or Tyler Hoechlin from the CW series, or Tom Welling from Smallville, or Henry Cavill. It's not going to be shot-for-shot like that, or it's not going to be the same. But I like what they did and the direction they went in, and Crypto was amazing. I loved Crypto, and even though that's not and even though that's not how Crypto actually is, it still worked because Crypto was adorable, and he came in and did what he had to do. Skylar Gisondo played Jimmy Olsen, and I really liked the more incorporation of Jimmy Olsen in this movie. And there's something that goes on in this movie with Jimmy Olsen and someone else. And what did you think about that? It's very interesting dynamic there.
For me, though, Jimmy Olsen, he always kind of got saved by Superman. Wasn't he always in trouble because he was somewhere doing photography?
Yeah.
This Jimmy Olsen wasn't doing any photography. I did like the actor. He just wasn't Jimmy Olsen for me. I don't know. I went from a 7-minute video to a 70-minute video.
So all in all, we enjoyed this movie, and there's several different scenes that were just so iconic, and they really did well with the music blending of the original series. And I think that's what, for both of us, there were several things that made it for us, but I think the music is very, very important and very strong with people, and just movies, TV, everything like that. And for them to bring in the original theme and reprise it the way that they did was beautiful. I mean, just top notch. James Gunn really went balls to the wall with this, and I can tell that he was passionate about it. I could tell when he was posting about it on social media, and it was just such a breath of fresh air to not only see such a good movie in the theaters, but a good superhero movie. Because lately, superhero stuff has been kind of not lackluster, but kind of overdone, and probably done a little too wanky and too over the top, and I don't think that this was over the top. There was a lot of scenes that were very comic booky, but that's what comic book fans want, though. They want like the panel for panel in a movie, and it's kind of hard to do that from animation to live action, or from a comic book to live action, and I think James Gunn captured it very, very well.
Like I said, I've never seen any of the comics, never even picked one up, had no idea, but I enjoyed it as a regular movie and as a comic book adaptation.
See, we're getting her there. Wendell Pierce was Perry White, and I do like that actor because he's a funny actor.
Yeah,
and
he wasn't in a lot though this movie.
Thanks for cutting me off.
I'm sorry.
As she said when she cut me off, yes, he was not in this movie a lot. The acting was pretty. The acting was very well done in this movie, I'll say. I'd never once did I think anybody was overacting or underacting. I think everybody delivered everything the way that they should have, and I think that everybody fit their role. Maybe not perfectly, but almost perfectly. I will say, with Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor, I liked it. I did. I liked how he portrayed Lex Luthor. In the beginning, it was a little
too timid.
Too
meek.
Yeah, timid, meek. A little lackluster. And granted, we were establishing some things, and
been a lot funnier though while he was like not being crazy.
True, he could have been funnier, but then again, that's another thing with like different characters and different universes and different storytelling. This Lex Luthor isn't as comical. Towards the end, he got more abrasive. He got more in your face. He was more screamy, and that's Lex Luthor right there. So we both looked at each other and we're like, yes, this is the Lex Luthor that we wanted to see.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it was just kind of establishing. So I'll give it some grace that, it was just establishing him as Lex Luthor. But I did wish that from the jump, he embodied Lex Luthor more like how he did closer to the end.
Yeah.
Another thing to mention about this movie is David Corenswet as Superman/Clark Kent. Now, great Superman. And honestly, I would venture to say that he would be a good Clark Kent too. We only saw him as Clark Kent for a limited amount of time. And, I'm not going to spoil anything, so I won't tell you when, where, how, who, or why. I mean, we know who. Limited time as Clark Kent, which you know, even in the other movies with Henry Cavill, that was something that I wish that they did more of, is have more of Clark Kent. And again, this is the first movie in James Gunn's DC universe, so who knows?
I wanted to see the goofy side, the nerdy, you know, different voice, the nasally voice when he's Clark.
Like, I don't know, Lois.
As opposed to the more manly voice when he's Superman. So I did want to see a lot more of Clark Kent.
Yep, I'd have to agree with that. I did want to see a little bit more of Clark. On the other hand, say that it was still great when he was just Superman, because there's so many characters that are in this movie, and that's another thing that at first I was like, I don't know, sometimes when you put too much in there, it gets really, really bad and messy, and it was great.
He did a great job.
Yeah, he held his own. Mr. Terrific held his own. Green Lantern, Hawk Girl, like they really did well. One other thing that I'll say that I have mixed feelings for is Ultraman, because this is a different version of Ultraman, and that's cool. I was looking forward to seeing Ultraman like the Crisis on Two Earths Ultraman from the Justice League movie from back in the day. Still good, it's just, man, that Ultraman was just different. It was a different caliber. Well, it's not really like a negative, it's just I kind of wish it was a little bit more similar to that.
I love that it was the old school Christopher Reeve. I loved it. However, I have to say, when it zooms in, there's like these things on his side, and it looks like it's more of like a shield shirt kind of thing going on. And for me, it was just, I could have done without the extra few things on the outfit.
Right, yeah, it's just a different kind of suit.
The classic Christopher Reeve costume. But up close, it just kind of threw me off. It took me out of the moment, I guess you could say.
Interesting.
But these are just small things.
I mean, I'll agree with the fact that it was very reminiscent of Christopher Reeve's costume, but it also had the new spin with that James Gunn and his vision for Superman and stuff from the comics, like I said earlier, All-Star Superman and Action Heroes and a lot of other comics as well, which I'll do another video talking strictly about like comic book relations and all that stuff. So the cinematography was pretty beautiful. Like, yes, a lot of stuff was CGI, but still the way things were shot was beautiful. It was very comic book-esque, as I've said numerous times, and I say that so much because it's very hard to capture that. It's very, very hard to capture that without it being too goofy or too whimsical. Look at her. Wow, that was I was trying to find a better word. Man. Yeah, too whimsical, you know, but I think they did it just right. Everybody else that were there in the theater, that we just kind of got so invested in the film. The last time that I saw a movie and people were clapping throughout it the way they were was Wicked.
Yeah.
And that movie was phenomenal.
And honestly, a lot of the flying is very similar in Wicked and the flying scenes in Superman.
That's true. That's actually something I didn't even think about.
I was a little worried about the flying scenes because, you know, the old school movies, they're not as good.
Yeah.
But when you're a kid, you don't really think of anything like that, and then these newer ones, you're like, all right, please don't go over the top, don't let it be too fake. But I have to say, I like the flying scenes. Yeah,
they were all pretty good. A lot of you watching this probably know exactly what I'm talking about. When the first teaser came out, the teaser trailer with David Corenswet Superman flying, there was a little askew with like his face and whatever, and people were dogging on it, saying, oh my god, this is gonna be terrible, James Gunn can't even direct anything, and look at this, it looks terrible. And it's like, you all sound very silly because it's called a teaser trailer for a reason, or it's called a trailer for a reason. They don't do the final product until closer to when the movie comes out. And people were just dogging on it when it was like 8 months away, you know? It's like, come on, dude. And then when the final trailer came out, people were like, oh, he listened to the fans because he fixed it. It's like, no, there's just the production team just finally got to finishing around the final touches of it. You can't just outright judge something just from the first time you see a snippet of it. You have to give it a chance. And that's what I've been saying about this from the moment I heard about it. I was like, we have to give him a chance. I would want somebody to give you a chance if it was your first time taking over a mantle of something. So why not give him a chance? You can't really trash something without seeing it first.
Boo.
Thank you guys so much for joining us in this review.
Thanks for having me.
I know, of course. I always want her to join, so it's nice to have her here. And sorry if we were a little all over the place.
I worked at Blockbuster, so I'm very good with movies.
Yeah, she actually is really good at movies. Please leave a like down below and a comment down below, and let us know what you thought about the movie, if you've seen it, if you're planning to go see it, or if you've read the comics as well, and if you have any other thoughts about Superman in general in regards to any Superman at all leading up to David Corenswet.
I definitely want to see more. I hope James Gunn does a couple more of these, because I would go see it for sure.
Until next time.
Bye.